Some days, the silence grows so heavy it feels like a scream. But that day, it wasn't silence that filled the house. It was temptation. That's how it felt that afternoon, trapped within these walls, drowning in quiet. Mark, my husband, was gone again, off on another business trip. By now, I was used to it. A decade of marriage teaches you patience. But lately, waiting felt more like fading away. I sat alone in the living room, absent-mindedly flipping through a magazine I had no real interest in, when a sudden noise shattered the stillness. A car door slamming outside. Startled, I got up and peeked through the window. It was Jake, Mark's nephew, his brother's son. 22, full of life, the kind of energy that makes you feel old just watching it. I hadn't seen him in months. He looked different somehow, sharper, more vibrant. And there I was, standing in my worn-out sweater, wondering when I had stopped feeling that way myself. The doorbell rang, loud and insistent. I hesitated, then made my way over and opened it. Jake grinned, a big, effortless smile that lit up his face. "Hey, Aunt Emily." Uncle Mark asked me to pick up some papers he forgot. Said they're in the study. Cool if I come in. "Ah, sure. Yeah, come on in." He stepped inside, tossing his backpack onto the couch like he owned the place. I shut the door behind him, sneaking a quick glance as he stretched. There was something different about Jake. He had this presence, this pull, the kind that could draw you in without effort. Mark used to have that, back when we were young, reckless, and in love. Now, everything was routine. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat. But Jake, he was a break in the pattern. And I hadn't realized yet how dangerous that could be. He strode to the study, flipping through the messy stack of papers on Mark's desk. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching him. The room smelled faintly of old coffee and printer ink. "So, how's life been, Aunt Emily? Keeping the world spinning?" he called over his shoulder. "Oh, quiet. Work keeps me busy." He turned, grinning, a folder in hand. "Quiet? That's no fun. You need some chaos to shake things up." I chuckled softly. "Chaos? No, thanks. I like things calm. Safe." Jake leaned against the wall, tapping his foot as if he was too restless to stand still. His gaze met mine, playful but sharp. "Safe is overrated. Don't you miss the thrill?" He was teasing, but his words landed deeper than he realized. Safety was all I had left. Mark and I didn't fight, didn't argue. We just existed. Comfortable, yes, but empty. And Jake? He was pressing on that emptiness like he could see straight through me. "You look different today," he said suddenly, his voice quieter. I blinked, caught off guard. "Different how?" He shrugged, his gaze lingering just a second too long. "I don't know. More alive, maybe?" A warmth crept into my cheeks. I turned away, pretending to adjust the cushions on the couch. "Flattery won't get you out of trouble, Jake." He laughed, but it wasn't mocking. It was warm, teasing. "Who said I was in trouble?" I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water I didn't really need. Even as I moved, I could feel his presence filling the room, as if the air itself had shifted. When I turned back, he was leaning against the doorway, watching me with that effortless confidence. "You seem tense," he noted, voice casual but eyes searching. "I'm fine," I lied, avoiding his gaze. He stepped closer, and I caught the faint scent of his cologne, fresh like the ocean. "You sure? You've been quiet since I got here." "That's not like you." I swallowed, forcing a smile. "It's just been a while since we caught up. That's all." He nodded, though he didn't look convinced. "Well, let's fix that. Tell me what's new. How's Uncle Mark?" "Busy as always. You know how he is. Work comes first." Jake raised an eyebrow. "And you're okay with that?" I hesitated. The truth was, I wasn't. But admitting that felt like opening a door I wasn't ready to step through. "It's fine. We make it work." He studied me for a moment before nodding. "If you say so." The conversation shifted, his college classes, his latest tattoo, the kind of wild stories only Jake could tell. I found myself laughing. Really laughing, for the first time in weeks. It felt good. Too good. At one point, He reached for the glass of water on the coffee table, and our hands brushed. It was brief, accidental, but the touch lingered in my mind. My pulse jumped, and I pulled back quickly, laughing it off. But I felt the heat rising in my face. Jake didn't laugh. He just looked at me, his expression unreadable. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. "Yeah, of course." I spoke too quickly, rising to my feet as if distance could dissolve the tension. "It's just warm in here, that's all." He didn't believe me. I could see it in the way his eyes narrowed slightly, studying me like a puzzle he was determined to solve. "Emily," he said, dropping the usual "aunt" for the first time. "What's going on?" I froze. The air between us felt charged, heavy with something unspoken. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Instead, I turned away, pretending to busy myself with straightening the already immaculate kitchen counter. He followed, his footsteps barely making a sound against the tile. "You know you can talk to me, right? I'm not a kid anymore." I let out a soft, hollow laugh. "I know that." "Then why are you acting like I'm about to break something?" I spun around, meeting his gaze. He was closer now. Too close. My breath caught. "Jake, you should go. It's getting late." He didn't move. "Why?" "No reason." I said too fast. "You got the papers. There's no reason to stay." He stepped even closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe I want to." My heart pounded in my chest. This was wrong. I knew it was wrong. But there was something about the way he looked at me. Like I was more than just Mark's wife, more than just another piece of furniture in this quiet, empty house. For the first time in years, I felt seen. "Jake," I whispered, my voice unsteady. "This isn't, we can't." "I know," he murmured, his eyes locked onto mine. "But doesn't it feel right?" My mind screamed at me to stop, to step back, to think about Mark, about everything I had built, but my body refused to move. Instead, I felt myself leaning in, drawn to him as if caught in gravity's pull. Just as the space between us vanished, the front door creaked open. I jolted back, my pulse hammering. Jake and I separated instantly, both turning toward the sound. It was Alex, Jake's cousin, Mark's other nephew. He stood in the doorway, his gaze darting between us, suspicion flickering across his face. "Hey," he said slowly. "Am I interrupting something?" "No, of course not," I replied, forcing a laugh that sounded false even to my own ears. Jake was just leaving. He stopped by to grab some papers from Mark. Alex's brow lifted, unconvinced. "Funny, Uncle Mark asked me to stop by and pick up the same papers." My stomach dropped. The lie unraveled in an instant. Jake's excuse had been flimsy from the start, and now Alex knew it too. A wave of shame crashed over me, hot and suffocating. Jake, ever composed, merely shrugged. "Guess there was a mix-up. I've got them already, so no need for you to stick around." Alex didn't move. His gaze lingered on me before flicking back to Jake. "Well, I'll let you two get back to whatever this is." Then he turned and walked out, leaving the door slightly ajar behind him.
The silence that followed was suffocating. Jake looked at me, his expression unreadable. "I should go," he finally said. I nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "Yeah, you should." He grabbed his backpack and headed for the door. But just before stepping out, he turned back. "Emily, this isn't over." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I simply watched as he disappeared through the door, the sound of it clicking shut echoing through the house. Alone again, the silence pressed in on me. But it wasn't just emptiness anymore. It was full of questions, of what-ifs, of the weight of what had almost happened. And the biggest question of all, what happens when the silence finally shatters?